Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. I actually had a really nice weekend. I spent Saturday relaxing a bit because on Sunday I ran a 20-mile race. It was around some lakes near Milton Keynes. It was you went round the lakes twice. It was nice and flat with undulating parts, and there was a really nice bit along a canal where you got to see canal boats and ducks and various wildlife. So it was quite an interesting race. I ran that race in the Cielo X1 2.0, and in this video I'm going to tell you what it felt like to run in this shoe, if I think this shoe is a good option now for your marathons. I've run 20 miles in it in a race now, so I have a really good idea whether this shoe is going to be a winner for your spring marathons, maybe your autumn marathons, or maybe like me, if you've got a 20-mile race or half marathon coming up, you're looking at this shoe. Please watch this video to the end to get some idea of whether this shoe is going to be an absolute winner or if it's one to avoid. That's all I want to say for now. Watch the race footage, race review, and I'll see you soon with the full review. Bye-bye. Hi, it's Ed from Runnable. Yes, I've arrived at Milton Keynes, or is it the London Eye? I'm not sure. It's nice and foggy, to say the least. I'm about to pick up my race number with music in the background. What could go wrong? It's a 20-mile race today. I have on my feet, let me show you, Hoka Cielo X1 2.0. Now I really need to find my number pickup, and I'll see you later. Hope it goes well. Bye bye. Done. New PB, new 20-mile PB, 207 something, 42 I think, something like that. I'll find out the actual time. Hoka Cielo X1 2.0s, what shoes they are.
So well done, third place.
My legs feel absolutely fine at the end of this. Well, not absolutely. I've just run 20 miles and they don't feel that bad, to be honest. This shoe is something special. Just keeps you rocking forward, bounding along. Lovely shoe for this kind of distance, and yeah, really well organised. I think it's dirt running and really well organised race, this one. Met some lovely people at the end and shared a few stories, particularly the slippery canal path where a lot of people were ducking and diving and nearly falling in the water. But yeah, what a race for me. Really big boost ahead of London. 207, and my closest 20-mile result to that. It's
So put your hands
2:13.
together, ladies and gents.
So
for
I've
third, second and
whacked
first
off
place
a
female
good 6 minutes
in
off my
the twin
PB,
legs
which I'm
20 miler.
absolutely
Samantha,
delighted
Hayley and
about.
Lucy.
And I might win my age category, we'll find out. Let's have a look. Let's see. Let's have it. Right, so before I go in to tell you what it felt like actually running in this year, if you've watched some pre and post race footage, you'll get some idea already of how I feel about this shoe. But we should talk about some key stats for those that know nothing about the shoe. So very quickly, it's an extremely light new version of the Hoka Cielo X1 series. You've got this as 215 grams in my UK size 9.5. I went up half a size, mainly because of this, how much this toe box tapered. It's not got high volume this shoe as well, so my fat toes got a bit of pressure in this shoe, so another reason to go up half a size to alleviate that pressure a little bit. You've got this really nice lightweight mesh, Jacquard mesh upper. You can see through it, see my fingers, there you go, through it. I really like the upper actually, it hugs the foot really well. You've got a little bit of a heel collar and heel counter, semi-rigid, a bit more rigid than the previous version of the shoe. I had no problems with that heel counter either, but this one I think is slightly better. Get really nice lockdown. It's not a gusseted tongue, but I didn't have any issues with the tongue. I cinched the laces really tight. You've got a slight pillow here, extra layer that can helps when you cinch them really tight, and you don't get any pressure on the top of your foot. So all in all, fantastic upper. Just watch the sizing on this one. You may need to go up slightly because of basically how it tapers in at the top there. In terms of stack height, it's kind of misleading. The official measurements are 40, 33, 7mm drop, but of course you've got more foam actually here in the midfoot area, mid-heel and midfoot area. So the drop is misleading. I wouldn't go by those figures. What I will tell you is it really tips you forward, this shoe. So those of you who don't like that feeling of being tipped forward, you probably won't like the feeling of this shoe. It's not a nice shoe to walk around in. It feels very strange. It feels like you've got a speed bump just about here and you're walking around on a pogo stick. If you imagine a pogo stick, that's what these shoes feel like when you walk around with them, or if you land on the midfoot. So that's the misleading drop. What I would say though, if we're talking about the geometry of this shoe, it's got a really early stage aggressive rocker, like I said, that tips you forward. So if you like that being thrown forward sensation and be able to hit a kind of nice rocketed stride that keeps you moving and bouncing along, I think you're going to enjoy running in this shoe. We'll talk a bit more about the midsole and the plate and also the foam in a minute. If we turn it over though and look at the outsole, you've got decent landing area in the forefoot. It narrows quite a bit in the midfoot, and you've got an okay size heel. It's not massive by any means, but it's not tiny. You do, though, have this massive cutout on the medial side. So those of you that pronate a little bit, so if you're landing about here in the sort of midfoot area and you land on the lateral side, but you pronate inwards, this is going to cause you some instability. And that's a theme of this shoe. And there were points during my run in Milton Keynes, and bear in mind that I land further up, but there was points where I had to put the brakes on a little bit, turning tightly around corners, whereas I did feel like this shoe was trying to pronate me a little bit. And, you know, as I say, I naturally land completely the other side. So I can see for those of you who do actually mildly pronate or even like pronate, you're going to have real issues in this shoe. So I would again avoid this shoe if you follow those criteria. And maybe if you're in doubt, go to your running shop, try them on, put them on the treadmill and get them to video you. Just check what's happening there, because for anyone who lands around this area, it's going to be a complete no-no, I think. Even if you land here, but pronate that way, medial to your medial side, is still going to be very unstable, this shoe. And then for those of you that land further up, just bear in mind when you're having to slow down and take corners like I had to during the race, you will get some instability because of this cutout. That said, for the majority of my race, the outsole was fantastic, gripped really well. There were some really muddy, slippy areas, and though I did slip a few times, I would have slipped in any outsole, including like Adidas and Puma. I think this Hoka have got a really nice soft rubber grip here that grips the ground well. They've got rather too much exposed foam for my liking, but I think both the forefoot and the key areas of the heel are covered with decent grip. It's only really the these cutouts that let the outsole down, where you can see it splays a little bit. So if you're heavier than me, landing on the heel may not feel great. It may feel a bit unstable in this shoe. And again, you're going to have that irregular side-to-side bounce laterally, medially. And also, like I've said, this medial cutout, for those that pronate, it isn't going to help really. And then in general, the midsole and the plate configuration, you've got a winged carbon plate. You can see it showing through the outsole there, and also there. It's there mainly for stability reasons, that you've got this nice wing here and here to keep your foot centered. It's that center path technology. It's not like I feel the plate in this shoe as much as I would say the Metaspeed Sky and Edge Paris. I feel it more in those shoes, giving me a nice bounce. I feel like in this shoe, it's the rocker and the foam, this supercritical dual blend Peba foam, that really makes this shoe stand out for me. It's an amazing blend, this Peba foam. The blue here, the softer blue supercritical Peba here, and the more dense Peba at the bottom. And where I land, I get this massive wedge of that really soft, bouncy foam that just, when I land, I get the rocker and I get the bounce and I get the toe spring, and it throws me forward. Just, it's quite an incredible experience running in these shoes. And the toe spring is something else. So those with toe issues, like if you've got toe mobility problems, again, this shoe is probably not going to be for you. You do need to work with your foot and your toes in this shoe. It's not one where you can just let the shoe kind of roll you along without much foot movement. You do need to use your foot and toes. I quite like that. I like to be a little bit in control of, and that sounds crazy because this is a kind of like a stallion and uncontrollable shoe. And there were parts of that run, actually, the 20-mile run, where I felt like I was a little bit out of control in this shoe. But it somehow worked. It somehow made me smile. It was fun to run in. The best thing I could say about this midsole is it just kept me bounding along and really nicely cushioned. And when I got to the end of the race, and we'll talk about the race in more details in a minute, but while I'm talking about the midsole, when I got to the end of the race, my legs felt great. You know, I've run 20-mile races before and my legs have been in bits by the end. My quads, my calves, my hamstrings. This though protected my legs in a really nice cushioned bouncy way with this soft foam. It is just a little bit wild and unstable, this shoe, and that's what I would say the most in that 20-mile race. I had to concentrate, and if you can imagine doing that for the full length of the marathon, it will be taxing on your brain, right? And I've got more used to this shoe. You really do need to get used to this shoe, so you can't just take it out of the box and run 20-mile races in it. You need to practice in it. I think by the time, if I use this for the marathon I've got in spring, I'll use it a couple more times and I'll be ready for taking this to 26-mile distance. But it is an incredible midsole, and the plate, like I said, gives you that nice stability agent rather than it being the thing that really pops you forward. So that's the midsole. You know, really like it. You know, if I was to vote the upper out of 5, I'd give it 4 out of 5. The only thing I don't particularly like is the fact that I had to go up half a size because of the low volume. The outsole, again, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. I thought it was great. It's just this for heel strikers, this splaying and the soft foam means it's a little bit unstable for those and the exposed foam areas. And obviously the midsole, 5 out of 5 for me because of where I land. I'm landing here. It's one of the best midsoles out there as far as I'm concerned. This Peba blend is magic, absolute, like I said, just call it dragon dust or fairy dust. Dragon dust? What are you talking about, Ed? But anyway, it's amazing, the midsole, and I absolutely love the geometry of this shoe. I love the way when I land here in this early rocker, it throws me forward, it gives me a nice toe spring and an incredible bounce, increasing my stride length as I go, which obviously helps with the picking up the speed. In terms of the race, it went really well in this shoe. So I was able early on during the race to keep up with some of the lead runners. I would say I kept up with them around about 5 to 6k, and then some of them started to break away. One guy in particular just left the field and he ended up winning the race in 1:54, which is quite impressive. I think it's a course record actually, but amazing time for a 20-mile race. The race was largely on bike track paths, but also there were places where it was really muddy, like on the canal tracks. There were places where you had to turn sharp corners. It was quite undulating at times, so it did kind of break your flow a little bit. That said, I think it was reasonably flat in general. You know, there were some large points where you were running around the lake in these flat paths. There were some nice woodlands you ran through. I really like those bits, and the bits where you're running alongside the water. So this is the Twin Lakes 20-miler near Milton Keynes for anyone who's interested. And this by and large coped really well. I only struggled a little bit with uneven surfaces. There were some tree roots, there was some iron weird kind of poles sticking up from the floor, things like that. They made me had to concentrate a lot more because of the unstable nature of this shoe. But when I was running straight down alongside the lake, this was fabulous, and it kept me bounding along at a really nice pace. I stayed with the kind of second group of runners for quite a period of time. Then a few of us broke off, and in the end I was running large sections on my own with some of those runners ahead of me and some behind. I managed to pass a couple of people on the second lap of the course. One young lad flew past me towards the end of the first lap, and eventually he had to stop for a toilet break. And then eventually that helped me catch up with him, and then I overtook him, and I think he was struggling a little bit at that point. And then I caught a couple more, but then there was towards the end I got caught myself by an amazingly strong looking guy who just flew past me. But yeah, so by and large, I was able to keep a really nice pace in this shoe. Kept bounding me along. I feel like in London it might even be more effective because the surfaces will be more even. They'll be a bit wider. There'll be less having to take tight corners. And it will suit these kind of road marathons where you're just bounding along largely in straight lines. So it would have been perfect in Chicago, would have been perfect in Berlin. I think it would be pretty good in London. So it is a viable option for me now. I should say, for those that have not seen the post-race footage, I ended up in 6th place in that race with a time of 2 hours 7 minutes. My previous best there had been 2 hours 16 in that same race, and my previous best ever 20-mile race was in the Bedford Running Festival last year, where I did 2 hours 13. So I whacked a good 6 minutes off my PB in this shoe. And I have to say, there were times during the race where I was thinking, my God, this is an amazing shoe. I mean, it just felt so nice to bound along in it. It was so easy on my legs. I did feel now and again some pressure on my ankles and some pressure on my foot. My foot actually has been problematic since I ran in the Endorphin Elite 2 of the half marathon. I've slightly bruised, I think, the bottom of my left foot near my big toe. And I felt it a little bit in this shoe, so I think it's unfair to blame it on this shoe. It was already an issue there, but definitely your ankles will need to be strong in this shoe because of the movement. There is an irregular bounce often in this shoe that you have to deal with, and you have to readjust, and that can have put some real strain on your ankles. So if you've got problems with your ankles, again, I would avoid this shoe. But to summarize, in terms of the race, it was an amazing shoe for flowing along, using the rocker to really push you forward, bounce you forward. The geometry really helps because you lean slightly forward and it throws you forward, and you feel like you're using less energy up because of the shoe. It's great for going down long stretches, not so good for going around tight corners. It, I think, will be good for the major road marathons. For those of you who are doing London, Manchester, or some of the ones abroad like Rotterdam, I think this would be a good shoe for you. David, you in Australia, I'm guessing your marathon is going to be a road marathon. I think you're gonna have fun in this shoe like I am. Just make sure you consistently running it before the marathon to get used to it. I still don't feel like I'm fully used to it yet, but I'm getting there, and that 20-mile run has got me to a point where I'm really now confident that I could take the marathon distance. Once I'd finished my 20-miler, I felt like to do another 10-mile would be more than achievable in this shoe. I didn't feel like I was in bits. I pushed hard at the end because I was getting chased. But that said, once I'd finished, I wasn't like I normally am, like I sometimes am at the end of half marathons, where I'm really almost like keeling over. I was walking around talking to people and I felt fine actually. So that's kind of my summary. I think for those of you without ankle problems, without the need to have this medial area filled in because you pronate, for people who want to go fast, that want to use the rocker and light rocker rides, that have got no toe mobility issues and actually quite like a good toe spring, those of you who like that bouncing style that this will promote, I think you're going to absolutely love this shoe. And this 100% for those people, and I've eliminated a lot, I know, because heel strikers won't like this shoe either. I know I've eliminated a lot, but those that remain with me here, like you, David, this is going to be an absolute dream to run your marathon in. Trust me on that. I think you're going to love it. I was smiling for those 20 miles, and hopefully if I take this shoe, I'll be smiling for those 26. And for those of you, I had a good chat at the end. Second place lady I got chatting to, I think her name was Hayley, I think, might be wrong. I got chatting to at the end. She's doing London. There's quite a few people there doing London. It was a kind of warm-up race for London. So those of you who I talked to, thank you very much for spending a bit of time chatting to me, and hope you're watching the channel, and I hope you smash London and all of you smash your marathons. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.